All right, we are recording. Welcome everybody to the virtual book launch for From This Day Forward by Wendy Haller. My name is Matt Haller. I am a filmmaker and critic based in Connecticut and New York City. Um, I am also the proud son of Wendy Haller, the author. Um, and I would like to introduce, it is my honor to introduce the author and the narrator for the audiobook of From This Day Forward, Wendy Hallard and Jennifer Sommerfeld. Um, so this is your second book now, working together. Both Wendy and Jennifer have come from very similar but different backgrounds that led to this point. Um, Both recently were welcomed into the world of literature. Wendy was a preschool teacher for many years, and Jennifer worked in fingerprint examination, um, which, both jobs you're dealing with gross fingerprints, so you have to make do with that. Um, but wanting something more out of their lives and careers, they found literature, Wendy writing and Jennifer narrating for audiobooks. I apologize, this is your third time working together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Talk about how you both found each other.
I had put my poetry book, my first published book that I published up on ACX for narrating. I'll tell my side first, Jen. And then I had gotten a lot of auditions in, and I had chosen one and put in an offer. They call it put in an offer to a narrator, and the narrator accepts. They have 48 hours. Um, and so I had chosen one. I put in the offer, and then Jen's audition came through, and I was like, no, I love her. I want her voice on my book. And fortunately, the person did not accept the offer in the 48 hours. So it was a little serendipity. I was able to send Jen the offer, which she lovingly, thank you, Jen, accepted. And so that's how we came to work together. Jen, you want to throw in your side?
Yeah, I had uh I had signed up for ACX, which is sort of the creative side to Audible. And Audible goes with Amazon, yada yada. Um, and I was kind of on a break from work and trying to decide whether I was going back or not. And really needing to be done with that. So um, I signed up for Audible for ACX and occasionally would go in and I would look for projects to work on. But, I really wasn't finding anything yet. Nothing spoke to me yet. And so I got my microphone. I'm reading lots of stuff like, how do you even start doing this? What's a good microphone? So, I get a microphone, I get a stand, you know, get something so that it's not sitting on your desk, right? So, the little pop mic thing, right? Um, those kinds of things. And then, but I had talked about it for a long time before that. So mostly I'm just sitting here procrastinating. And, um, and then one day I kind of just had that feeling. So I sign in and I find Wendy's poetry and blown away. And I don't generally read poetry because it's just not my thing, right? So, but the three poems for the audition I mean, one of them specifically just made me cry. I think I was crying during the audition. I'm like, I promise I'll clean this up. I promise I won't cry during the whole thing. Um, and so I put it together, and I think by the time I was sending it to her, I found the old emails. and when I sent it to you. So I think
Yeah.
by the time I was sending it in, she already had an offer out. And um and then I kind of was like, okay, well, I'm really bummed, but I'll use her poems still to see what I need to do to fix them because they didn't meet all the standards for ACX. So I was trying to figure out how to fix that. And so I just kept practicing with them, trying to do different things. And then within that, 48 hours, um, I noticed that it showed back up. And so I couldn't remember if I had already sent them in or not, but I think I must have. Um, so yeah, within a couple days or whatever, an offer came, and I think it was all that same day, April 9th of last year. The offer came, and within like 3 hours, we were stuck together.
A go. Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
accepted, and here came all the poems, and I read through all of them, and I'm just like, oh, I can't believe my luck with this. I love every single one, and this is just going to be fun. So, it was great. It
And
was
what
really great.
about each other's work have brought you to work with each other now for the third time?
I kind of, once I heard Jen reading my poetry, I was like, the way she reads, I heard my work from a different perspective, a different light, and the emotion and the intonation she used. I cried at my own poems. And when the Flanagan Girls, when I was writing the Flanagan Girls, and actually I think I was in the post production, and it was already sent to the publisher, I reached out to Jen and I'm like, I want to do this again. Do you want to work with me? And so, and that's how it came about. And as soon as yeah, I think when you started doing Flanagan Girls is when I started writing from this day forward. And so we've kind of
Mhm.
learned to get into a flow of
Yeah.
I'm writing, she's recording, I'm in like it's just we've kind of gotten into a flow, and yeah, it's like a good collaboration in that way. And then nice is we're coming up through it and learning it all together, her from a narrator, me from the writer, but the whole author business and how it all works, we're learning together.
And what about for you, Jennifer? What about Wendy's writing has kept you or brings you back?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, obviously the poems, there were some where you're laughing, there's some where I'm totally bawling and I have to keep re-recording it because I'm still bawling. And they uh like my sister-in-law is here, Sandy, and I said, so which one, did you like? And she gives me a totally different one than like my favorite. And she's explaining, kind of why it really hit her. And so, and it doesn't have to be for women. I mean, it really hits everybody at a different stage in life. It hits people, just totally different. And for me, just the writing of to be completely frank, it was the poem Suicide. I think it's called Suicide. um and I've had depression my entire life. And I met my husband in high school, like right after I was diagnosed, pretty much. He's been with me through the entire thing. And so I read that, and he heard the recording and he was bawling. He was just like, it just spoke to me. And I had been um hoping that, if it worked to work with Wendy through the poems, that hopefully it would, maybe she would like my work, and, maybe she'd offer me a book, or, I don't even know if I knew yet that she was working on a full novel yet. So I think I learned that maybe halfway through. So when I found out, I was like, "Ooh, fingers crossed, fingers crossed." And then, she tells me, yes, I'm working on this book, and you know, uh, and then as soon as we turned in the audiobook for the poems, for
Yeah,
Kiss You Love Goodbye,
yeah.
she offered it, and I was like, okay, so. And I've always been very, very honest, including when I gave her the email with the audition for the poems. So this is my first thing. I have no idea what I'm doing, and yeah, so this will go really good. But I'm really good with computers. We'll figure it out. And so now I'm on my third, right? And I go back and I listen to that, and I'm like, ooh, that was really loud. I wonder if I can fix that. So if I fix anything, y'all will, if you have it in your Audible already, it'll come back, and you'll get a new copy with all the updates. So we're learning as we go.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
And I think what's nice too, because we've gotten to know each other, and she knows my style of writing. I write a very emotionally driven, rich dialogue, emotionally character driven, very emotional. I'll keep saying emotional, emotion. But it's nice because now that I'm working on the second book for my for my debut, The Flanagan Girls, she already knows the character. She already has the voices for them.
Mm.
And then, so when I make the next book in my Wedding Vows series, which from this day forward is the first book in the Wedding Vows series, she already kind of knows the flow of the book and where it's going. So it's just kind of nice that again, we're getting to know each other well enough that I think it's just going to continue to flow more fluidly.
Yeah.
For those who for those who do not know, From This Day Forward is a family story about Jay and Emmeline. They are a young couple living in Connecticut. They have a very happy life. Jay is a police officer, Emmeline is a nurse, and one day Jay gets into a car accident, and he comes out of it, a few scratches, nothing seems bad, but over the next few months starts to realize both in himself and the others around him that he has been affected mentally from this accident. Wendy, can you talk about the inspiration behind this story and why, especially after Flanagan Girls, you wanted to tell this story?
It's interesting that there's a running theme throughout From This Day Forward of mental illness. And I didn't go into it with that. Jay sustains a traumatic brain injury in the car accident while on the job. And it kind of alters who he is. So he has to learn to accept this new version of himself. She has to learn to know if she can love this new version. So she compares old Jay versus new Jay a lot throughout the book. And my husband works for ESPN, and we had watched a few documentaries on concussions and traumatic brain injuries and things that happen for football players, especially with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, and so I got some awareness, but I suffer from a chronic illness. I have psoriatic arthritis, and it has really taken me out of who I thought I was. And it was almost like Jay and I were kind of healing at the same time and coming to accept this new version of us. And I was on a podcast recently, chronically booked about people who write books who have chronic illness. It's a beautifully themed podcast for someone like me. But we were talking about, and I realized as I was discussing the book that I would never have had the opportunity to do this, what I'm doing now, something I always wanted to do is write. I never had the confidence in myself to do it. I was always very insecure about my writing, and my PSA has given me this opportunity to be home and do this now. So there's that silver lining. And so again, like I said, the TBI really spoke to me, especially I interviewed a police officer who suffered a TBI. I do a lot of interviews and when I'm researching my books, and he suffered a TBI in Afghanistan, and hearing what he went through and coming home and just the parallels of it just blew my mind. And I just really wanted to honor the journey because obviously their journey is different from mine, but there are some things that parallel. And so it was a very healing process for me too, writing the book. And same thing with Flanagan Girls. I didn't realize how much of myself I put into it. So, and honestly, now, being almost 52, I wasn't ready when I graduated college to write books. I didn't have enough life experience, but now I can pull from whether it's my own experience or things that I've observed. And I feel like my characters, again, I always say I'm like turning into a schizophrenic, but it's like the characters speak to me. And I like my little imaginary friends and I want to take care of them and honor their process. And I also want anyone that has had from this day forward deals with an aunt with dementia. It deals with a father who was undiagnosed bipolar. And I just want anyone that picks up my books to and who has those diagnoses or has been around or a family member to be seen. I just want everyone to be seen for where they are.
And in talking about pulling from your own life, this story is set within the town and the environment that you live in. What was your inspiration in setting it here in the Farmington Valley, Connecticut? And how did that influence especially the ensemble which you build? That's a really unique array of characters.
Yeah, well, you know what it's the old saying, you write what you know. And for me, I like to have the visual. I'm a visual person, I'm a visual learner. So to be able to see, there's a scene in the book where Jay is driving home and he can't remember how to get home. And so he calls Emmeline and she has to guide him. And so knowing New Hartford, Connecticut and being able to use those real street names, I can visualize it in my head and give so much credit to the authors that do world building and create these amazing worlds and they can come up and all of that. And that's just not me. I write more character focused. And it was interesting. I was at a book club on Thursday night and for the Flanagan Girls, and someone there said, so is the East Hill Road, is that like made up? Or, and I said, no, it's the Canton East Hill Road. She's like, oh, I knew it. I knew exactly where she was driving. And I'm like, that's so cool. I do it for me. So I'm a little bit more accurate in my description and, the visual part, but that was really cool, to take the person into the book so that they can also travel and see where they are.
Um, can you talk, Jennifer, can you talk about the process of bringing these characters to life, not just Jay and Emmeline? The book is told from both of their perspectives, switching back and forth, not just defining those individual parts, but also building that ensemble and, defining those unique characters.
Um, yeah, it's not easy. Um, but it is definitely a lot of fun. So we did talk at the beginning of I think both books to see, if there was anything specific that she wanted from any of the, even the poems, anything specific. And no, 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 no. Just you, I want to see what
You
you
do
come
you.
up with.
You do you.
You do you. Okay. So I kind of especially the first one, the Flanagan Girls, I really kind of wanted to I mean, I just kind of, I had like, who does this voice remind me of? Who is this? You know? So I had all these sticky notes on my computer, like in front of me, you know, so that when it would come up to a person, you know, like the mom or somebody, I'd try to think of this, you know, actor or something to try to get me in thinking of that character or something when I started reading it. Um, just because, you know, that was sort of who I was seeing is that person. Um,
Could you talk about some of the people that like you thought of in that process?
so, well, some of it's just even just caricatures. So, you know, Becca's an attorney. So, you know, I kind of just have like the attorney attitude sort of deal. So it'll be fun to do Becca before she's an attorney, kind of coming into her own as the attorney, but dealing with her mother, who's, oh, come on. You know, so
That's from the Flanagan Girls. Yeah.
yep. So that's going to be fun. But then this one, I did not have sticky notes everywhere. I did not have people in mind except Aunt Viv. And with Aunt Viv, if you haven't read this yet, um, I've been really open to feedback, but I just texted Wendy and I said, you know, I hate to do this, but I kind of don't. I hope you like Aunt Viv's voice because I love Aunt Viv's voice and I'm not changing it. So um, I'm kind of being really unprofessional, but you know, and then I started telling her, you know those like YouTube videos of the two old ladies, they're like sisters and the grandson is taking care of them now, and they're just old codgy ladies that are just at each other all the time. And but they're so funny. Well, not everybody finds them funny, but I find them really funny. And she's like, "Yes, I it might not be the same old ladies, but yes, I have exactly the same kind of old lady thing and just going back and forth at each other, these two sisters and like exactly. So that's who I have as my Aunt Viv and she's oh wow, yeah, she's my favorite. She's not my mother-in-law's favorite. Hi, Gail. But no, she is she's mine. She's just sassy. And
She's an
wow.
SLB.
Yes, she is. She is just wow, full of it. And
Well, you all will have to read
fun.
the book or listen to the audiobook to
Yeah,
hear
you have to
more.
listen to the audiobook.
Yes, and the audiobook will be out this week. It's part of Audible's like June sales spectacular, whatever. I just got notified today. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think with this in mind, let's break into reading a little bit of the
Mm.
book. We'll be reading, would you say the first one and a half chapters
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
there?
about that.
Before we get into it, two quick things. I just want to say regarding Wendy, you were talking about, this book being a healing process, for you with your, chronic pain and how it relates to the book. If you all are interested in learning more about that, Wendy and I worked on a film with the same title, From This Day Forward. It's a short documentary piece about her relationship with chronic pain and how it has come to be a part of her life and how she works through it. I'm linking to that in the
Yeah,
chat,
I was gonna suggest
which you
that.
all can see. Save that for later. And then after we read this, we'll be going into a little Q&A session. I think it would be easiest for the Q&A. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a react, and you can raise your hand like this. I think that'll just be easiest so that we can all make sure that we don't overlap or nobody
Mhm.
talks over, and I'll be able to call on individual people. So without further ado, let's get into the book. Wendy,
Okay.
start us off.
I will. So here is the cover from this day forward. Jay and Emmeline are newlyweds. They've only been married for a year. So the book starts off with a quote from C.S. Lewis. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Chapter 1, Jay. Jay Ellis, a local police officer, loved the first day of a new school year. He enjoyed driving through town, seeing the kids standing at the bus stop in their new clothes and backpacks, and the smiles on their faces as they excitedly reunited with friends they hadn't seen all summer. With the bluebird sky and bright sunlight shining down, there was a vibrant buzz in the air. It reminded him of the deep pride he took in his job, knowing he played a role in supporting and connecting the community, and how being part of something bigger than himself gave his work meaning. Being a police officer was more than just a job for Jay. It was who he was at his core, shaping both his identity and his purpose in life. He started that day exactly how he loved to begin every day, with a trail run through the backwoods behind his house, accompanied by his dog Jake and his wife Emmeline. A quick shower, breakfast, and then off to work with a travel mug of coffee in hand. When he arrived at the police station, he greeted his fellow officers with handshakes, waves, and pats on the back. After a quick change in roll call, he was off in his patrol car to protect and serve another day. It was still early in the morning. The high school students were already at school while the middle schoolers were waiting at the bus stops. Some looked like they had crawled out of bed with their baggy shorts, loose t-shirts, and long hair sticking out from underneath their baseball caps like bird wings, while others, mostly the girls he saw, were all dressed up in ripped jeans, crop tops, and with every hair perfectly in place. Jay smiled to himself, thinking back to his younger days. Adulting was hard, but he preferred it over those awkward teenage years. As he drove up and down the neighborhood streets, he waved and beeped his horn to the kids when he came upon a bus stop, even if they didn't wave back. Jay smiled to himself. Oops, I'm sorry. He reached his right hand over to his cup holder to grab his drink. He almost forgot about the new four-way stop sign they put up at the crossroads of River Road and Grove Street. Replacing his hand back on the steering wheel, he came to a stop. He was the only one at the four-way intersection except for a car coming up on his left. He knew he had the right of way, so he proceeded forward. Jay turned to look at the blue sedan coming toward him. It did not seem to be slowing down. His eyes bore into the driver, young, female, blonde hair, her eyes staring down at the phone in her right hand. The car was going way too fast. Jay stared at her. He laid the palm of his hand on the horn. He heard himself mutter the word stop as if she could somehow hear him. Suddenly, the girl's head snapped up from her phone and her eyes locked with Jay's. The smile on her face faded, replaced by shock and horror as the front of her Toyota slammed into the back driver's side door of the police car. The impact of both cars caused a horrible metal-on-metal sound piercing Jay's ears. He felt his car start to spin. Jay's head hit the driver's side window, then bounced off before flinging back and hitting the headrest. His body lurched forward and his left knee jammed into the dashboard. He let out a loud yelp before his forehead hit the steering wheel with a loud thump, and he blacked out. Sirens. Do I hear sirens? They are so loud. Voices. Who's talking? He heard his name, or maybe he was imagining it. He was trying to blink his eyes open, but the darkness was intense. His head was incredibly heavy. Yes, it was his name, and a banging sound. Please stop banging. Jay, Jay, he heard a voice and the pulling sound of the door handle, the car door opening. Jay, don't move. There's an ambulance on the way. Am I trying to move? He didn't feel his body moving, but his head, maybe just his head, it felt like it was swaying side to side, not in a physical sense, but like an unsettling motion inside his skull, rocking him back and forth. What happened? He said, trying to sit himself back up. He felt a hand holding him in place. Don't move. The EMTs are almost here. The voice is familiar. Who is that? Jay slowly blinked his eyes open. Speedometer, gas gauge, police car, driving girl, texting, crash. Is she okay? His voice echoed in his head. The girl from the other car, is she okay? Jay tried to lift his head again, but it felt too heavy. He turned to the left and placed his cheek on the steering wheel and let the dark envelop him. The voice next to him drifted off with the sounds of sirens in the distance.
Chapter 2, Emmeline. Emmeline was running late for work again. At 26, she thought she'd have figured out how to avoid it by now, but somehow she was always 5 minutes behind, no matter where she was headed. Despite her best efforts, something always got in her way when she was rushing to leave the house on time. After turning off the lights, she raced through the cozy log cabin toward the front door. She grabbed her oversized leather bag off the back of the couch and began shuffling through it, looking for her car keys. Damn it, she cursed at herself. Her anxiety level increased as she shook the bag, listening for the sound of her car keys jangling. The cell phone in her back pocket began to ring. Am I ever going to get out of this damn house? She asked herself in frustration. She debated letting it go to voicemail, but decided to check the caller ID first. As she pulled her phone out of her pocket, she looked down at the screen. She smiled to herself when she saw the number. It was the police station. She clicked the green answer button. What did you forget? She asked with a smile on her face. It's Lieutenant Benetti. Her heart caught in her throat, and her hands began to shake. As the wife of a police officer, there was always a hidden fear of the dreaded phone call or officers knocking at the front door. Oh my God, what happened? Is he okay? What's going on? What's happened? Words tumbled out of her mouth. She placed a hand on her stomach as worry began churning, making her queasy. Yes, he's okay, Em. He was in a car accident. He's still at the scene. EMTs are with him. He's banged up, but he says he's fine. He is refusing to go to the hospital. I'm calling to let you know in case you want to go get him, or I can have someone drive him home. He's at the intersection of River and Grove. Emmeline heard his tone soften as he talked to her. She recognized the switch from professional to personal. Hearing the lieutenant's voice soften helped calm down the butterflies in her stomach a little bit. No need. I'm on my way. Emmeline could still hear the lieutenant talking as she hung up the phone and grabbed the keys she saw out of the corner of her eye. They were sitting on the table behind the couch, exactly where she had put them the night before. Jake, their black Labrador, stared up at her from the floor as if to ask what happened. She stared at the dog for a second. I'll be back soon, boy. Don't worry. Dad's okay. She said it to comfort herself more than the dog. She raced out of the house, almost forgetting to close the door, and ran down the front steps over to the Jeep. Emmeline drove through the small town streets of New Hartford, Connecticut, on her way to Farmington. The scenery outside her window was a blur as she cursed at every red light she hit on the drive. She was normally a patient person in traffic, but not today. It was 30 minutes to Jay, but it felt like it was taking her hours to get to him. She pressed the phone icon displayed on her dashboard. Then she pressed the name Josie, her best friend and coworker. She listened to the phone ring as she got caught in another red light. Damn it. Josie's voicemail picked up and her message played. After the beep, Emmeline spoke loudly and quickly into the air of the car. Josie, it's Em. Jay was in a car accident at work. I'm heading to pick him up because, of course, he's refusing to go to the hospital. I won't make it into work today. Can you let everyone know? I'll call you when I have more information. Love ya. Bye. Emmeline pressed the end button on the display with a trembling finger, her hand unsteady as it hovered over the screen. She took a deep breath and refocused her gaze as she finally approached the accident scene.
Scene.
Thank you very much. This is incredibly beautiful. You can find From This Day Forward on Audible and Amazon and anywhere that you can get it in person.
All the places.
Yeah, all the places. Go to Kismet
Mhm.
in
Collinsville.
Collinsville, yeah. So let's open it up to questions now. As a reminder, please use the raise hand icon, which you can find under React, just like that. You can see the little hand up top there. Anybody have a question? Sorry, give me
I see
one.
Charlie and Paul, honey.
I know, sorry, I just need to give some permissions back that I turned off. All right.
Charlie, you're muted. There you
Hi
go.
there. Well done. I'm excited to read the book. I actually have two questions. One is about masculinity as a cop and not getting help, because I'm guessing that plays a part in not going to the hospital, and how that you incorporated that in. And the second question I have is, if you don't take it now or not, is how do you incorporate humor interwoven into your book? So Flanagan Girls, you did a very nice job of intermingling some humor in it, but I'm not sure about this book, and it sounds like a very serious, obviously, book.
That's a great question, Paul. Well, the masculinity was a very big thing. And that's, like I said, um, I interviewed a police officer who has a TBI and what he went through. And also I interviewed a doctor who works with TBI patients. And that was a running theme, is putting off getting the help they needed because they thought they could manage it on their own.
Mhm.
And as far as so that kind of drove how I wrote Jay, was getting all of that information from the people I interviewed, because I wanted it to be really authentic. And then as far as the humor, and so Paul was one of my beta readers for the Flanagan Girls, and that's the reader you give, for those that don't know, you give them kind of like your completed draft, but not there's still room to grow. And so Paul read it, and one of his feedback was, I'd like to see more humor in it. And which was super helpful, because you do need a little comic relief. And so I was able to incorporate that a little more in Flanagan Girls. But from this day forward, I was able to take that note that Paul had given me and bring that into writing this book. And that's kind of how, um, so Aunt Viv is kind of the comedic, she's the comic relief in this book. And her sister is Emmeline's mother. and they have a very funny mother-daughter dynamic. And Viv has early onset dementia, but it's hard to tell sometimes with her, is it dementia or is it her using dementia to get her way? You know, because she's a little bit, so they call each other SOB. So either they're being a son of a bitch or a sassy old broad. And Viv is definitely a sassy old broad, even though sometimes she can be a SOB. And so threading her through to kind of bring in that comedic relief for these hard topics that are dealt with the mental illness being the thread throughout, was important to me, but also just to show with dementia, the patient's personalities shift. And for any of you who have dealt with family members with that, and sometimes it could be they're the nicest person, and then they go through the stage and they're like angry and you don't know what's going on. It's like, who is this? And so for Dottie, the mother, seeing her older sister Viv go through this was hard, and she had to make that hard decision that I can't care for her anymore. I need to put her someplace that can give her the 24-hour care. So even though there is that seriousness of it, what the sisters are going through, Viv, there is no other Viv. Like she is a sassy old broad to the height. And I've had people say, you're going to write a book just about Viv. And I'm like, I don't know that I can. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And what happens in Viv's life, I don't know that that's supposed to be let out of the box. So yeah, so she was so much fun to write. But yeah, so that's that to answer your question, Paul. That was it. And I have you, ironic that you brought that up, because I have you to thank for that beautiful note as my beta, because I'm even now researching the second of the Flanagan girls, and dealing with the topic of breast cancer and the mother-daughter dynamic. I got to fit in my little comic relief in there we need it. We need to laugh. Yeah. Anyone else?
Any more questions?
I feel like we covered a lot, but just in case. And I feel like what's nice about doing, oh, sorry, Corinne, go ahead, hon.
Can you hear me? It won't let me turn my video on, but
Oh, okay.
we can or
That's
can't.
you.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that you did a lot of research, and I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about how you learned about TBIs and how they affect people, and sort of what could be expected, so that you really understood what Jay was going through, and then how that was potentially going to impact his relationships, especially his marriage.
Researching the traumatic brain injuries was, I was fortunate enough to connect with this police officer who has one, but learning what inspired me to want to write a book about this hidden illness is having watched documentaries, having my husband work at ESPN and watching documentaries about the concussions that the players were sustaining during football, and then they can't really what are they called, CTIs? Mike, is it CTI, CIT? But anyway, so they weren't being able to detect them until after, or really die until after the person had passed. And so I don't know, there was something about that just got to me. And so I started exploring a little more, because I'm just a lifetime learner. And I do some work with UConn Med School, and I started talking to one of the preceptors or doctors that's a teacher there about it. And that's how TBI came up. And he started talking about his work in the hospital special care in Connecticut. And it was like one thing led to the other, it's kind of this snowball. And then it became like, I want to know more. I want to understand this more. And then it was this, I had no idea how many levels and all the different symptoms and treatments. Like the number one treatment for people with TBIs is music therapy. And ironically, the number one treatment for people with dementia is music therapy. So there was that connection there as well. And once I started doing the research and going down the rabbit hole, I was just blown away by it. After the accident, it takes 72 hours for the symptoms to start appear. And then from there, they slowly appear. And like Matthew had said, it could take up to 3 months' time to the full extent of a TBI. And I had known I wanted to write this story. And originally it was going to be called For Better or Worse, because it was the first book in my Wedding Vows series. But then when I started with that, and Corinne, you know, you're part of my writing group, I felt like it was so definitive. For better or worse, it's, you know, better or worse. It's black and white, and that is not TBIs. There's so much gray in there. And once I switched and decided, I remember we were in our writing group, and I was like, it's not sitting with me. It's not sitting with me. And I think I want to change it to From This Day Forward, because we all have those moments in our lives, regardless of what we're dealing with, where something happens. From this day forward, what am I going to do? How am I going to move on? And Emmeline and Jay have to figure that out individually, and then they have to figure that out as a couple, how they're going to face what's happening. And other things happen in the book that I can't give away. But it really was just doing the research, and something about it just really stuck with me. And then seeing the parallels of the therapy treatment to the dementia treatment really struck a chord as well. And that kind of, you know, it just, one thing led to the other, and then the voices start talking in my head, and I'm like, well, I gotta go sit and write, because otherwise they're coming, they're taking over.
I
I
think
hope
we
that
have
answered
time
it.
for one more quick question.
Okay.
That's one.
Yeah. 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 Carla has her hand raised, and Dad has his, I believe, Matthew.
My question is this going to be a series? Or
It
is
is
this a
going to be,
standalone?
so it's going to be a series, but each book is going to be standalone. However, there will be some characters that show up and places that show up because it's in the same area. Like a doctor, they might end up seeing the same OBGYN, or, you know, like that, because it's in the same area, but each book will be standalone.
Okay.
My question was, you really nailed the ending to this novel, and you know as well as I do, I'm usually really disappointed with most book and movie endings. They're important in my world. I was just curious, did you know the ending of the book before you started writing it, or did it sort of happen organically?
I write my books out of order, and the second to last scene, the ending of the book, other than the epilogue, that was the first thing I wrote. And so I knew my beginning, my middle, and the end, and so I needed to do the fillers to be able to connect. Oh, that's nice, Sharon. And so for me, it was, yeah, I knew how I wanted the book to end, and I needed I needed this couple to find their way there. And what was interesting, and not like a shameless plug, but if you sign up for my newsletter, you know that I put out questions to my subscribers. They all vote for my book covers, and I asked them, I knew where I wanted Emmeline and Jay to go, but there was a point where I was like, okay, there's 3 different avenues, and I couldn't decide exactly where I wanted. So I put it out to the readers. And I said, what would you like to see happen? And I did I did a little poll and it came back, y'all, 33, 33, and 34%. That did not make my life any easier. Um, but I went with the one that had the most. And I mean, yes, I wrote it, but it ended so beautifully. And the way that Emmeline's story came to just came together and brought her on her own personal journey. I was so thankful. I appreciate it because it came out so beautifully. But yeah, so at the end of the book was already written, and it's interesting as I'm getting ready to write the next book in the Flanagan girls story. I know the beginning and I know the middle. I don't know the ending yet. So we'll see. Who knows?
We'll stay
But I do.
tuned for that.
I write completely out of order. And I write everywhere. I dictate into my phone, as other writers on the call and know. I write in my notes app. I sit down at the computer. Um, yeah, so it's random, just like me, random.
Well, thank you both very much. Before we wrap things up, we got a message in chat. Sharon Faye says, got to listen to the book. My life has been recovering from a head injury.
Sure.
Thank you very much for the message, Sharon. So before we wrap things up, we have a little giveaway. Wendy, would you like to take it from here?
Yeah. So, just as my thank you, I wanted to do a little giveaway of my book. So, I'm sure most of you are like me. My favorite thing is like to spend a quiet afternoon cozied up reading. And so I wanted to give one of you that experience. So I have my book From This Day Forward. Sorry, I told you a cat was going to come in at some point. I make my own bookmarks from dried pressed flowers. So my book with one of my bookmarks, a little thing of tissues with the book cover on. Thank you, Catherine Matthews, for the idea. And then also I love to play with essential oils, and this one is called a spiritual well-being. So this is a blend, frankincense, lavender, myrrh, and spikenard, which is great for anxiety. And it smells like a spa. So just so you can give yourself a nice little escape. And honestly, that's what I write. When I write my books, I want it to be just, you write what you like. And um, I like character-driven stories and I want to escape from, life. So hopefully you'll get a little escape. And yes, the spray is good. It does. It smells like the inside of a spa. And I purposefully tried that. So ready? I took all of your names that registered. I cut them all up and I put them in a little bowl. My cat was trying to pull them out and eat them. So I was able to save them. And I can't even see. Okay. I don't even know if she's here. Stephanie Bailey Dariso. I don't know if she's logged on. Do you see her, Matthew? I don't think she
I
did.
do
Okay.
not.
All right. So let me take some minutes. Can't even get my
You can
fingers
only
in
win
that
if
one.
you're here. So
What's
sorry,
that?
Stephanie. You can only win if you're here.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Let me see here. I just pulled out, I'm going to pull out everyone that wasn't able to make it. Jen Sinclair. I don't think she was able to make it either. All right. I'm going to keep going. All right, hold on, it's coming. My hands are getting stuck in the bowl. Angelique Granville, and I do see your name, Angelique. So
I'm here. Thank you.
I better catch this before the cat takes it. Yay, congrats, Angelique. So if you could stay on after, hun, so that I can get your address and I'll send you your special little afternoon of relaxation. Oh, and I also have a little tea bag of chamomile. So I'll send you your little gift package to have a nice quiet afternoon for yourself. All right.
Thank you. That would be
Thank
wonderful.
you. Well, thank you all so much for coming and sharing. I'm so excited for this book to share it with you. It really is a beautiful love story. It's not a romance, it's a love story between sisters, between mothers and daughters, mother and son, and then husband and wife. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Wendy. That was great.
Thanks. And thank you, Jen, for
Yeah.
being my amazing narrator. I'm
You're
so
welcome.
thankful we came
I know
across each
we're all
other.
muted, but let's give a little round of applause. Thank you, everybody, for
Thanks.
coming out. Have a wonderful evening.